Got it? It worked.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva Vedyadravinam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we're making our way through the second chapter. Is everything okay?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure you were not muted.
Okay. Can you hear me in Zoom land?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And we're dealing with Krishna's continuing with the teaching that started with the 11th verse, where he says, you grieve for whom you should not grieve, though you speak words of wisdom, meaning Arjuna was talking about all his psychological problems. Just like you and I, oh, I'm having problems at work, I'm having problems in relationships, I'm having problems with my finances, I'm not feeling good about the politics, and everything we say about these things, it's valid. And then Krishna says, the wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead, meaning the wise person gets out of all of this. And as we've moved forward, Krishna is teaching on 3 levels, and they're what I call braided together. They're not in a clear sequence. He's talking about the physical body. What has he said about it? It's born, it grows up, it grows old, it gets sick, and it dies. It's the inevitability. Everyone here is dying. The only question is, some of us know a little more clearly than others when the expiration date is. Then he's introduced us to the concept of the transmigrating soul, sometimes called the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, sometimes called the Antakarana, meaning inner equipment. And it's the subtle body that moves from one incarnation to another. And we can say it has a relative immortality. Goes from one embodiment to another. garnering experience, doing good deeds, what we call punya, gathering merit, and doing not so good deeds, what we call papa, usually translated as sin, but it's not at all like the Judeo-Christian notion of sin. And that propels us into a more negative life. But he's thundered that the self in you, the self in me, is birthless, changeless, and deathless. And we had that marvelous verse last week, 16, where we were playing with these two words, Sat and Bhava, existence and being. In the end, only you really exist, and only you have real being. The world of name and form that I perceive through the senses, and the physical body, and the subtle body, though experienced, comes about like a dream. Don't worry about it. But if we're in the state of spiritual ignorance, just like the dream at night, I think it's real. And then I suffer. I become a sansari, someone who's in the world of samsara, of birth and death, of coming and going. Now, you don't need to believe in the doctrine of reincarnation. You can simply look at this teaching from the standpoint of one lifetime. You go from job to job. You go from residence to residence. Some of us go from relationship to relationship. And the externals always change. But something there is that's an eternal factor. What is it? So someone help us out. I think we're on 20 or 21, maybe 22.
We're starting on verse 20, page 72.
Verse 20. Will you help us out, please, Vinaya? Do you have enough light?
Yeah. न जायते मृत्यते वा कदाचित् न अयं भूत्वा भवितव्यः भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतो यं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. He's not born, nor does he ever die. After having been, he again ceases not to be, unborn, eternal, changeless, and ancient. He's not killed when the body is killed.
Now, this is why we need a guru. Because which dimension of our being is he talking about? The physical body, the transmigrating soul, the subtle body, or the self? So a good commentary or a guru who is Shrotriyam, well versed in the scriptures, is necessary to understand this. So here in this verse, he's talking about the real self. So in the scriptures, we get these three words over and over again. Satchidananda, Sat, pure existence. Chit, pure awareness. Ananda, usually translated as bliss absolute, but for now, let's translate it as no sorrow reaches there. Physical pain, birth and death get to my physical body. conducive and non-conducive situations, and the mind's reactions and its hopes and its dreams and its expectations and its plans are all at the level of the subtle body. But here, Krishna is talking about the pure self. So let's parse this verse idea by idea. Now, this is what we call a meditation verse. If we approach a meditation verse thinking, oh, this is so comforting, this is the truth about the self, as if it's out there, like you're learning about French, or you're going to learn about astrophysics, or Mike and I can relate to this, we're going to learn about Christology. Then it becomes something intellectual. It becomes an idea. It becomes other than you. So always, when we explore a meditation verse, we have to start with our direct experience. Usually pick something up. Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. Oh, there's a higher self. There's the super self beyond. No, nonsense. Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. My doubt is I have all sorts of weird ideas about that self, but I do not get another self. The very substratum of what I think of as my ego, that is Brahman. The four great Mahavakyas from the Upanishads. First one, Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is consciousness. Second one, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Oh, Guruji, yourself is Brahman, I'm a worm. No! Tattvamasi. You are that. Yeah, but I feel like I'm a worm. Yeah. Meaning we need to do sadhana. And the final utterance at the moment of realization, Aham Brahmasmi, does not say, oh, I know Brahman. I am Brahman. So what do we do with the meditation verse? Spend some time in meditation, getting the mind as quiet as possible. Just put the scripture right next to you. We take a verse like this and we take each idea, and with your mind as quiet as possible, we do what I call introverting the attentive faculty. This is not easy because the mind's nature is to look at stuff. So when you're at the psychotherapist's office and they say, look inside. Oh, I'm really sad. That's fine for the psychotherapist. But for the yogi, you're still looking out. You're looking at feelings. I'm frightened all the time. You're still looking out. You are noticing fear. Don't blame. Who are you? Who is knowing all thoughts, all feelings, all perceptions? Now it's tricky because it's like trying to look at your eyes. Nobody has ever seen their own eyes. I looked in the mirror and I saw my eyes. No, you saw a reflection of your eyes. Never seen your eyes. Well, then I must not be able to see. Nonsense, you can see. It is like trying to shine a flashlight on its own batteries. Yet you are not unknown. Are you? So what we're going to do is use these statements in meditation verses which point, they do not define, they only point. And you see whether or not it's true about you. So did you have a question over here?
No.
Okay. First idea, please, Vinaya.
He is not born.
The body is born. Most of us have no memory of birth. But you have no experience of yourself coming into existence. You are not born, nor do you become. Birth here, we can look at it all sorts of deep inference. I'm becoming a better person. I'm becoming smarter. No, those are qualities of physical body, of the intellect, etc. You do not become anything. You simply are. The word we get in the tradition is nityam, which means eternal. Always in the eternal now. I shine as the light of awareness. Next idea.
Nor does he ever die.
Yes. Oh, Jim, yesterday I had the weirdest experience. I stopped being. Now, there are people that we call the Shunyavadins, scholiasts of the void. It's a particular school of Buddhism. I can remember I was up in Humboldt County giving a talk. I said, who here doesn't exist? You don't exist. Yes, I don't exist. I mean, you've experienced this? Yes, I've experienced it. Now, I'm sure this person had an experience of something disappearing, the sense of individuality. But whatever he saw disappear, something needed to be there to know it. Let me give you an example. Do I have red sheets or green sheets on the bed in the bedroom tonight? Do you know?
No.
Of course not. You've not experienced it. So if you saw yourself disappear, something needed to be there to notice it. So you may have seen the small self disappear. But you, as pure awareness, never cease to be. Now, none of us here are kids. And some of us have quite a few years under our belt. We've had joys, we've had sorrows, we've had successes, we've had failures, we've had wonderful relationships, we've lost relationships. But through it all, did you ever cease to be? What Gita is saying is, even dying is safe, as Ramdas says. Body will fall off, but you go nowhere. Next idea.
After having been, he again ceases not to be.
Yes. So there's no hiatus in you. What about when I'm under anesthetic, Jim? Don't I cease to be? Who here's been under general anesthetic? Did you, it's like you go in, you count backward, the next thing you know, you're in the recovery room, right? Are you not aware that there's this huge gap in your memory? Aren't you?
Mhm.
So here's the self, here's the mind, all folded up in pure ignorance. But you illumine it. It is like when you close your eyes, you are not blind. You are seeing darkness. The back of your eyelids occlude everything you see. So in deep sleep and under anesthesia, you see the mind closed up in deep darkness. But you do not cease to be. Let me give you a real live example. Did you sleep soundly last night? Did I? Exactly. You weren't there. You cannot remember the absence of your mind unless you were there to know it. Very interesting. You never cease to be. Well, Jim, but I have memory which ties my experience together. No, it doesn't. What is today, the 12th of February? Is that right? What were you doing on the 12th of February 5 years ago? Do you know? You have no memory of it. There are huge gaps in your memory. Yet you have never ceased to be. Memory is not what gives you a sense of continuity. Baba, being, is Purana, ancient, and Nityam, eternal. Next idea.
Unborn,
We've done that. Yeah.
eternal,
Yes.
changeless, and ancient.
Changeless. So it seems like I change. Now, one of my spiritual heroes, Shankara, has a wonderful metaphor. So if you go to a jeweler and you want to look at a gem that's not set, maybe it's just a piece of quartz, or it could be a diamond. And they take the gem and they put it on a black piece of velvet. Oh, yes, very clear. But if they put it on a red piece of velvet, then the gem looks red. They put it on a blue piece of velvet, then the gem looks blue. Meaning the gem borrows the qualities. And it seems like the gem changes color. Does the gem change color? No. It's clear. Likewise, to my mind, it seems like I am good, I am bad, I am lonely, I am comforted, I am happy, I am sad, I am a successful person, I am a failure. Fact, those are just judgments in the mind of the body and its actions, the mind's reactions, the intellect's conclusions. I never changes. You're safe. Don't believe me. As you go through your day, this is the practice. Frequently stop, see if you can still your mind a bit, introvert your attention and notice I. See if you can find a person in there, or just the space of consciousness that is changeless. So my confusion is what we call in the tradition adhyasa. Adhyasa means superimposition. I superimpose upon the self in my mind the qualities of the not self. Let's see if I can give you one of, again, Shankara's most famous examples. Now, Shankara lived in Kerala in South India, where it gets very, very warm. And what the ladies do is they have these big, tall jars. They're 3-4 feet tall, clay jars. And they take them down to the tank or the river, and then they fill them with water in the morning. And then they put them on their heads and they walk back to the village. It's very cool. They don't even touch them. And they set them down. So you have to imagine Shankara is teaching class in the evening where it's cooler. And there's a full moon. And he's outside on the porch, on the portico, because it's cooler. And there's 6 jars of water. And he says, look inside the jar. There are 6 moons, 1 in each jar. Oh, the moon is caught in the jar. Look in and you see the water has the property of reflecting the moon. And then Shankara goes out and he goes to one of the jars of water. And he says, oh, the moon is broken. Now, the moon's still up there in the sky. It hasn't changed at all, and there's only one. So the water in the jar is like the mind. And we have chit, chaya. Chaya means a shadow or a reflection. So we have the reflection of consciousness caught in the web of thought. And because my attention is on that reflection of consciousness, When the mind is disturbed, I think I am disturbed. When the mind is pacified, I think I am now happy. So I attribute to the self the qualities of the not-self. When in fact, the sensations in the body, the reactions of the mind, the conclusions of the intellect are ever in front of me. I witness them. They all are constantly changing, but I do not change. Don't believe me? Look and find out. Next idea.
Ancient.
Yes, so we've talked about this. The self is nityam, eternal, in the now. Which word does he use? Puranam or Sanatana?
Purana.
Puranam. Puranam means ancient. It means no matter how far back I go in my experience, I was always there to know it. Who here's had say, a memory of a prior incarnation? Who knew it?
Me.
Yeah. Different physical body, different feelings and stuff in the subtle body, but you always there illuminating. And in fact, you were there before the Big Bang. For those of us who come from the Abrahamic religions, Christians, Jews, and Muslims, in the Hebrew Bible, the very beginning, Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, everything was void. And then there's this very interesting language. It's usually in English, it says, and darkness was on the face of the deep, or darkness was on the face of the waters. Now, Mike, you probably remember reading this, right? Do you understand what that's saying? Something is there before creation. Now, in Western mythology, water is the most common metaphor for consciousness. So before God says, let there be light, deep is there, meaning consciousness. So before the Big Bang, consciousness was there. Next idea.
He is not killed when the body is killed.
So when the body dies, that self goes nowhere. Now, all of us already have some experience of this. Science says that we turn over the cells in the body every 7 years. If you look at a photograph of yourself as a 7-year-old or a 14-year-old or as a 21-year-old, some of us have it about 10 times. Those bodies are gone, 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 dead. Down the drain, down the toilet, literally. But not for a moment have you ceased to be. Now, killed here has great implications. Doesn't just mean when you actually go through the physical experience of death. It means the death of every experience. Everything is going to change. Everything will pass away. What makes me suffer? When I'm convinced that that person, place, thing, or situation is essential for my happiness, then I grab onto it. And when the inevitable happens, then I'm stuck suffering. Let go or get dragged. So that's what the yogi does. The yogi understands one great truth of this world is impermanence. Any thoughts on this? Is that the end of that verse?
Mhm.
Next verse.
Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajam vyayam katham sapurusha parthakam ghatyati hantikam. Whoever knows him to be indestructible, eternal, unborn, and inexhaustible, how can that man slay, O Partha, or cause others to be slain?
Yes, so this doesn't mean if you're a woman of realization, you aren't going to go around killing people. Doesn't mean that. It means for the person who's steady wisdom, person of realization, the person who's truly awake, she sees that the self is not the agent. Is it in this class that we had the Alexa chat?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Alexa chat, it's inert. It's just a program. The human personality is a very, very evolutionarily determined program. But you are a conscious being. You have Baba being. So you are that which is actionless in the midst of action. An understanding that when you're sitting still, that's an action. The self never acts, it just illumines, it just watches. I can remember a camp. Some of you may have heard me say this before. And one of the delegates, people there at the camp, asked Swamiji, Swamiji, when are you going to come to Allahabad? And he goes, I go nowhere. Allahabad passes in front of me. So your whole life passes in front of you. You will get your allotted dose of successes and failures, joys and sorrows. Whatever you're experiencing right now, promise you, it will pass. Oh, Jim, I'm so happy. Everything is working so well in my life. Don't worry, it'll pass. Oh, my life sucks. I'm so alone. I feel like I'm not connected to anything. Don't worry, it will pass. All mind states are temporary. All circumstances are temporary. They pass by. You are the eternal witness of them all. What is the agent? Later on, Krishna will say guna and karma. Guna, the qualities of mind. Karma, the force of our past as it interfaces with the society, the karma of the whole culture. Now, again, let's go through these ideas one by one. First idea, please, Vinay.
Whosoever knows him to be indestructible.
Yes. So, are you afraid? Are you concerned about wanting to be secure? Now, what is the basic feeling when we're in that state? Fear. Fear is the chief activator of virtually all our what we call kleshas, our afflictions, doshas, our character defects. Why am I afraid? Because I think I'm not going to be okay. Somehow I'm going to get wiped out. Somehow I'll be in an abyss someplace. It's all a lie. You are indestructible. Don't worry. I like to suggest people do what I call the vampire Lestat meditation. Any of you ever read an interview with a vampire, those Anne Rice books?
Yep.
When I was young, I loved them.
Uh-huh.
So tell us about Lestat. Can he be killed?
No,
What happens to him?
he can technically as a vampire.
But how long's he been around?
400 some years or something.
Yeah. And what happens as he goes through, a love affair, a house, a jobs? What happens?
I don't remember anymore. It's been so
He
long.
just stays
Oh, I see. Yeah.
indestructible.
Yeah.
Everything changes over these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Some of the vampires are even older.
Mm-hmm.
So what if this were it? And it's going to be like this forever. Because the self in you is immortal. Yeah, but I hate this world and I don't want to be alive. I want to be free. I want to get out of it all. What if you can't? What if it's going to be like this forever? How are you going to live? You don't give a damn anymore. Let it go. So it's a paradox. The only person who's truly free from coming back is the one who's willing to be here for the rest of eternity. Those of you who've done Buddhist retreats, do you know what a bodhisattva is?
Yes.
Tell us what a bodhisattva is.
It's somebody who delays enlightenment for themselves until everybody else gets there. Or they come back and they help.
They vow not to enter nirvana until all sentient beings are enlightened, liberated. The number of sentient beings is infinite. It's a very, very effective practice because it deals with this idea: I can't stand this world, I want to escape from it. Bodhisattva vows, I'm going to keep coming back. Now, you let nirvana sneak upon you from behind. The woman or man of wisdom, when they hear the bodhisattva vow, they might say, I don't see other sentient beings, there's only one of us here. But the point is, we want to be what in our tradition we call Jivan Mukta, liberated while alive. How do I get freedom right here, right now, in this very body? Give it all up. Don't be concerned. Live your life. Quit believing it must be this way or I'm going to be miserable and destroyed. All that good old Yiddish word, mishidas, laziness. Give it up. So we want to live with death on one shoulder, be ready to die at any moment, and live with immortality on the other shoulder. It's going to be like this for the rest of eternity. Pay the rent. Next idea.
Eternal,
Yes, nitya. We've talked about that before.
unborn,
We've talked about that.
and inexhaustible.
Yes, there's no end to me. Now, one of the things that's intimated here, we talked earlier this evening about the self being Sat Chit Ananda, Ananda, bliss absolute. And I said in the beginning, we will just translate that as no sorrow reaches there. Why do we call it Ananda? Because yourself is the fountainhead of all the happiness that the mind desires to experience. Because yourself is the source of all bliss, the human mind can be blissful. We have some technical terms for that. My favorite is Atma Ramana. Ram Ramati means to revel. Ramana Maharshi, he who revels. So the person of steady wisdom is not dependent on the objects of the world in order to be happy. They have another playground. They have a happiness that's not dependent on the world. This is what Jesus meant when he said, my kingdom is not of this world. Doesn't mean he goes someplace. I am in the world, but not of it. This is the pearl of great price that he talked about. Next idea.
How can that man slay, O Bharata, or cause others to be slain?
Yes. So when I know that I am the self, and that self is the self of everybody else, then it's just guna and karma working itself out in the world. Everyone getting their allotted dose of joys and sorrows based on the force of past actions. Death is not a tragedy. Getting there can be tough. But you and I, what do we grieve? Not the death of a loved one, my loss. That's what I really grieve. When I was working at St. Augustine as the director of music there, I did lots and lots of consults with families for funerals. And so many of them would have this idea, oh, Aunt Mary wanted this. Oh, Aunt Mary would have wanted that. Well, Aunt Mary will be so pleased if we do it this way. And I would remind them, funerals are for the living, not for the dead. Aunt Mary's fine. I would use their language. She's with Jesus. She's not concerned about this. You and I are. Doesn't mean we shouldn't be. Put it in perspective. Is that all the pieces of that verse?
Yes.
Next one.
Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihai, navani grahanti naroparani, tatha sharirani vihai jirnani, anyani samyati navani dehi. Just as a man casts off his worn out clothes and puts on new ones, so also the embodied self casts off its worn out bodies and enters other which are new.
So, because Arjuna may not have been able to grasp the truth of the pure self, now Krishna is stepping it down and talking about this transmigrating soul, which he's calling the embodied self. So just as you and I, at the end of the day, we take off our clothes, maybe put them in the laundry. The next day you take a shower and you put on clean clothes. Or you may find that, oh, your favorite pair of slacks is finally getting worn in the knees or something, and you gotta, cast them off. Time to go shopping. When the going gets tough, the tough go shopping. Get new clothes. So also this subtle body. Just like you go out, you go to the store, you buy clothes to express what it is you want to say with your clothes. Clothes are always a statement. So also the body we choose with each lifetime is a vehicle for the garnering of experience, for the satisfaction of desire. to experience what it is we think we need to know. We literally choose the parents. They come in at exactly the right time. Go through our 70, 80, 90 years. And at the end, well, that didn't work out too well. Maybe it would be different if. There's technical words for all this. Might as well give them to you. Sanchitta karma, agami karma, and prarabdha karma. Sanchitta karma are the karmas of the past, which have yet to fructify. So we'll use Fang as an example. So hypothetically, if 2 lifetimes ago, she was a peasant woman in Japan, she saw how the sumo wrestlers made all this money and they were very famous and they were treated with great esteem. She had this thought, oh, if only I'd been a sumo wrestler, it would be so much better. But she also had desires to, were you born in China or were you born here?
China.
China. You were born in China, but then you early on immigrated here to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's your prarabdha the karma of this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But if you still had that unsatisfied desire to be a sumo wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
I've got news for you. You have the wrong body for it this time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there in abeyance. Now, agami karmas of the future. If in this lifetime, there you are as a businesswoman and dealing with all this stuff, and you might be thinking, women just get the short end of it always. It would have been so much better if I'd been a man, and a tall man. I've been born into a wealthy family. I didn't have a good luck this lifetime. So we set up chains of causation for the next one. That we call agami karmas. Prarabdha karmas, the karma of this life. Sanchitta karma, karmas of prior lives where the environment isn't around for it to fructify. Agami karmas of the future that we set up in this life. So this sets the karma chakra, the wheel of karma, moving. We go from this incarnation to this incarnation to this one to this one. That didn't really do it. Maybe if I'd done this, well, okay, but it would have been so much better, blah, 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 blah. Oh, this was really good this lifetime for 20 years, but the rest of it sucked, and then I got old. Well, so we keep thinking that the change in circumstances is going to fix it. Now again, you do not need to believe in the doctrine of reincarnation. Isn't that what we do in this life? Oh, the Bay Area is too expensive. I should move to Indianapolis. Oh, Indianapolis, there's just no life there. I should move to New Orleans where they party. New Orleans isn't doing it. America's what's terrible. I'm going to move to Ecuador. Oh, this relationship doesn't work. They're the wrong person. I'll try another one. This job doesn't work. I'll try another one. This, no blame. This is just the human condition. Thinking that more, better, different is what's going to solve this deep, what I call the divine discontent. Until finally We think maybe spirituality is the answer. Maybe God's the answer. And I love, again, another statement from St. Augustine. Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. We have a God-shaped hole in our hearts. All the people, places, things, and situations we put in there. So little. Just a little bit of satisfaction, and it's gone. Next idea.
Jim, I have a question on this.
Yes.
Well, what if, for example, in a past lifetime, you thought, what if I just became realized in the next lifetime? Wouldn't that be great? Then all this will end. Does that mean that in the next lifetime you get to be realized? Like, is that an
Well,
automatic thing?
In Gita, Arjuna asks that question. He says, well, what if I decide I want self-realization, that I work really hard in this lifetime and I don't realize? Am I then doomed? And Krishna says, actually, you can't take your money, you can't take your friends, you can't take your possessions with you, but you do take your yoga with you. Next life, you're reunited with your knowledge, and you're born into a family where practice is conducive. You finish the job.
So it's guaranteed almost in the next lifetime. You have to decide in this lifetime.
Well, whether it's the next life or the life after that, I wouldn't worry about.
Okay.
The point is, everybody comes home to God. Vedanta yoga is the most compassionate of all religions. Everybody is saved in time. Now, I like to use this image. Which is more beautiful, the first rose of summer or the last? And it goes bud, a failure as a bloom. So right now you may be struggling really hard and it's painful, but you really have mumukshutva, the burning desire for liberation. You may be in that rose bud stage. Doesn't mean the bush is barren. In time, it will bloom. What will impel us? Our own suffering continues to impel us. All right, next idea.
Thank you.
Next person.
Did we finish all the ideas in that verse?
Yes.
Okay.
Nainam chindanti shastrani.
Hang on.
Nainam.
What happened to the light? Did someone unplug it?
Oh, my apologies. I forgot my charger.
Yes, you unplugged it, dear.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Nainam chindanti shastrani. Nainam dahati pavakaha. Na chainam kledyantyapto. Na shoshati maruta. Weapons cleave it not. Fire burns it not. Water moistens it not. Wind dries it not.
So here what he's talking about is all the things that affect the body. Never touch myself. I am independent of all that. Fang,
Yes,
you didn't plug it in.
I did. I don't know how. I'm so sorry.
You probably pulled it out of the wall.
Okay, let me try to fix it. Sorry.
We'll end here for now.
I just left my train.
I'll take care of it. You try.
Thank you so much, Mike. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Oh. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Namaha. Hari Om. We'll take up that verse again next week.